He's got a hammer, and he's gonna hammer in the morning, hammer in the evening, and hammer all over the meta. Find out what's going on as I hereby invite everyone to join me on my adventures through Marvel Snap. Hey everybody, it's Annabelle. So Deadpool's Diner is currently up and running, and we will discuss the event at the end of this video, but it does have a reward, and there is no spotlight cash for it, so I wanted to do a review in case you wanted to know who they are. So the card that we have is King Eitri. King Eitri is the last survivor of the dwarves. His people were close allies to the Asgardians, and he once ruled over the dwarves as their king. Even back then, he stood out as a distinct figure in the ancient race of skilled forgers and blacksmiths. Known for making tools, instruments, and weapons, he is renowned for his exceptional craftsmanship and is the creator of some of the most iconic treasures of the gods. He forged the weapon Mjolnir and Stormbreaker. King Eitri is the one responsible for the Infinity Gauntlet, but he agreed to make the artifact in hopes that Thanos would spare the lives of the dwarves. So he made what Thanos wanted, a device capable of harnessing the power of the stones. But once he did so, Thanos proceeded to wipe out all of the dwarves anyways, and to ensure that he could never pose a threat to him and his ambitions, Thanos destroyed his hands by smelting them in metal, leaving him unable to forge anything ever again. King Eitri wants to atone for what he did, so when Thor told him that he needed a new weapon, he showed him the mold for Stormbreaker, which could summon the Bifrost Bridge, and even though the star that powered his forge was cold, and the rings that surrounded it were frozen, he promised he would help in making this legendary weapon that he believed was the most powerful weapon he had ever imagined, if only Thor could find some way to activate his forge. King Eitri is very much a wanderer due to him being away and hiding for a very long amount of time. He is racked with the grief that the Asgardians did not protect his people, and he has to deal with the fact that all of the dwarves he ruled over have been killed. He is also very angry as the star that powers the forge is now cold, and the rings that surround it are now frozen. It also does not help that his life is especially worse now due to the fact that a cruelty was brought upon him that made his hands into metal, robbing him of his craftsmanship abilities. King Eitri possesses all the various superhuman attributes common among the dwarves. Despite the general misconception, dwarves are actually very large. He is legendary throughout the universe as a master blacksmith and a weapon forger who can create the universe's most powerful weapons. He is stated to have no equal. He was thought out by Thanos to forge the Infinity Gauntlet, and even with the loss of his hands, he still manages to partially craft some of the most powerful weapons known to this day. King Eitri is legendary throughout the universe as a master blacksmith. He is responsible for the Infinity Gauntlet, Mjolnir, and Stormbreaker. He will help in making these legendary weapons, as long as somebody can find a way to activate his forge. This is represented in Marvel Snap by the fact that if you can activate the forge, he will help you by giving you something you did not already have. So in Marvel Snap, what this card does is he's a one cost, 2 power character with the activate ability, which means it has to be out and revealed and showing up on your board for at least one turn before you can do this. That he will draw a card from your deck, but not any card, only a card that didn't start there. In my view, he is about a 2-star card. So let me go over some of the reasons why he ends up being a 2-star card. So let's talk about some of them here. So the first thing that we gotta talk about is, for basically all intents and purposes, he only works with a few cards in all of Marvel Snap. He works with Thanos, of course, because of the Infinity Gauntlet and the fact that the Infinity Stones don't start in your deck. Ironically, he also works with Loki because Loki makes all the cards not start in your deck. But the card that everybody knows about is this card of Thor, and to a certain degree, Beta Ray Bill. So basically, because the hammer doesn't start in your deck, he can pull forth the hammer. This is kind of acting as a second Lady Jane Foster in the deck, doing the same thing that Lady Jane Foster used to do or would do. Now, what's really interesting about this, if you just look at it as a power line, stat line, and basically the equivalent of a card that you used to get in the rewards, this is pretty much on par with Agony. Not a good stat line, not a good power line, not that good of an ability, but an ability that you can use and have some effect to. Now, one of the problems that you have with this card is the fact that it is vulnerable to Killmonger since it's still a 1-drop. If you put this down on 1 or 2, and your opponent plays the Killmonger, most likely you haven't had a chance to play the Thor yet. And once it's destroyed, you obviously can't activate. The other problem is just like Black Widow, it is an activate card, and because it is an activate card, you can't put it down late in the game. You can't put it down on turn 6 and get a card off it. Now, it is a cheap card, so it's in the 1 slot. This is the cheapest activate in the game so far. But you still have to get it, and it still has to be up on the turn, and it still has to not be destroyed before you activate it. Now, it is very interesting because anytime that you see a draw, you start thinking about it. Now, unlike Crystal, which can draw you a card but also draws your opponent card, this doesn't draw you just a card. It has to be a card that didn't start in your deck, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. The way it basically works is, where are you, Thanos? Hang on. It works like the Mind Stone. It's basically half of a Mind Stone. So instead of drawing you 2 stones, it'll draw you 1 stone in the Infinity Thanos deck, or draw you the hammer in Thor, or anything that uses a card like that. And just to show you how powerful draw is, Adam Warlock is still a horrible card because they're so worried about you drawing. Toxie, which is going to come out in a little bit of time here, is going to make you skip a turn just to get that draw. And this is kind of even better than draw. This is what in most games is referred to as a tutor card. Now, there are some problems with it, besides just the Killmonger, which we do know is a problem with it. It is very vulnerable because it has to be up and showing to Red Guardian if your opponent has a Red Guardian. And for the most part, they know that you're drawing at most likely a hammer because you're playing this in Thor most likely. And if they have limited spaces, they can pretty much figure out where the hammer's going. Also, funny enough, if you want to really negate this ability for going off, if you're seeing this happen too often, throw a rock slide or 2 in your deck. Since the rocks don't start in your opponent's deck, they have the ability to draw a rock, which will break their draw on this. The other thing that this does give me hope for, at least at this point, maybe somewhere in the future, we'll see something like a Bass, but for putting cards into your deck. That's how come Loki works so well with this, but Loki's kind of weird. Because Loki just completely wrecks your deck. I'd like to see something in the future where a card puts just like 1 copy in your deck of maybe something good, where it's like, yeah, you get this like, say, like 3/7. It puts another 3/7 in your deck, or maybe it's a 3/2, but it puts another copy in your deck, and when you draw the second card, then both become a 3/7. And then you could put it with the actual King Eitri, and that would make a really good combo deck there. So there's nothing wrong with this card. It's falling again right into the agony range, where it's not doing anything spectacular, and it's only falling into one, maybe two decks. But I'm actually kind of glad that you're getting this as a reward, because of the fact that I doubt I could ever recommend this as a card that you would want to spend keys or tokens on. Okay, so with all that being said, we've got to talk about Deadpool's Diner this time around. Second dinner. Why didn't you learn from your last time on making Deadpool's Diner? This cranberry sauce should be 0. I'm sorry, it just should be. If you're completely out of bubs, this should be down to 0, and it should, even if it gives you 32 is not that great, because even if you go full on in on the cranberry sauce, you have absolutely no way to get up to the mooncake, since you only got 32 of these cards. And you need to get 160. So basically, there needs to be one more step in between cranberry sauce and mooncakes. That would start you at 32 and end you at like 160, 170, somewhere like that. And cranberry sauce should really be 0. If you do that, everything else is pretty much okay with how you can climb up this, because you can climb up the rest of the way. Also, I don't know why you did this for the reward track. You put King Eitri here, which is fine, but you didn't put a second King Eitri up at the very top like you did last time. You put a Lady Jane Foster at the very top. And while Lady Jane Foster is a great card to get, I don't know who decided that it needed to be Lady Jane Foster, because right now, if you go into Conquest and you look at the shop, the other card for the shop in Conquest is Lady Jane Foster. So it's almost like you don't get another card for this. And this might be part of the problem, that you don't have a lot of Asgardians that you could choose from. Like, I wouldn't want to see Thor again. There's already enough Thors for this particular week. Odin already had a card for this week. You could do Hela, and if you were more than willing to actually do something about the game, and were more than willing to actually adjust stuff in the game, you could have done Loki at this point, but you don't want to bring down Loki, who would have been a really nice card to get off of this. So, I'm a little bit disappointed with what you did with Deadpool's Diner, because it doesn't seem like you learned from the last time we did Deadpool's Diner. To have one be a complete 0 free entry, so you could just play it as much as you want to. You're missing one step between the cranberry sauce and the mooncakes that really needs to be there, so you can bridge the gap. So you don't have to play 16, 17 games of cranberry sauce just to get back to mooncakes. So even if this was 0, by only having 30 on it, it's 30, 60, 90. And then another 30 would put you at 120. And then you'd actually get another 30, which would be 150. And then another 30, which would probably put you over to plus 160. So just to go from cranberry sauce to mooncake, even if cranberry sauce was 0, you're looking at 6, maybe 7 games to get there. That's just ridiculous. I know you want to try to get people to spend gold on this, but everybody saw that you didn't need to spend gold last time, so it's not going to happen that much this time. Also, I would have loved nothing more than if some way, shape, or form, besides just having this reward track out here, which isn't the worst reward track out here, you would have learned from High Voltage and put a couple quests in here that you could do every day. Even if it was just one quest that you could do every day. That would have been something that would help people out. Right now, you are fighting against some big heavy hitters, and this is the time which you can actually come out and show, yes, we're listening to you, yes, we're trying to fix this. Alright, I'm going to get off my soapbox. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, remember, play for fun.